To the cover story. I am Siobhan Campbell. And today we are going to be discussing the historic crime reduction, or more accurately, the historic murder reduction. Between January 1 and August 31 this year, Jamaica recorded its lowest level of murders in 23 years. That's over 2 decades. 459 Jamaicans were murdered over the period. It's the lowest murder tally the country has recorded over those 8 months, stretching back more than 2 decades. Nationwide News has been poring over comprehensive homicide data provided by the Jamaica Constabulary Force. As we hear in this report from Robian Williams, the homicide numbers this year show an extraordinary decline when compared against any 8-month period since 2001.
For comparison, Jamaica has averaged more than 1,200 murders annually since the early 2000s. Looking across the 2-decade span, the month of May has historically been the bloodiest, with a total of 2,982 murders recorded between 2001 and 2025. In contrast, February has registered the lowest murder tally, with 2,327 murders over the same period. The country's deadliest year on record came in 2009, when 1,683 murders were reported. By contrast, the lowest annual total was in 2003, with 976 murders. Based on the current pace, the projected murder tally for the final 4 months of 2025 is 229. This brings the likely year-end total to 688 murders. That would be extraordinary and historic, given that the only year since 2001 that annual murders dipped below 1,000 was 2003. This year has seen month-after-month record low homicides since 2001. So far this year, no single month has surpassed 74 murders, a figure recorded in January. February saw 49 homicides. In March, the figure rose to 66, then dipped to 46 in April. May recorded 53 homicides, June 56, July 62, and in August, 53 Jamaicans were murdered. The homicide numbers in 2025 so far are part of a 3-year trend of steady declines. This is indeed a purple patch that the Jamaica Constabulary Force has not recorded since the country first reached the 1,000 mark for homicides in the 1990s. Since January 2001 to August 2025, 32,559 Jamaicans have been murdered nationwide. Robian Williams for Nationwide News.
Well, joining us now to discuss further is JCF's Senior Communications Strategist, SSP Dennis Brooks. Good afternoon, Dennis Brooks. How are you?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon to your listeners and to your viewers.
Good afternoon
Wonderful.
to you, to Dennis. So let's look back at it. It seems that this trend, this reduction kicked in around 2023. Now we're into 2025 and we're really seeing that momentum shift towards the major reductions in murders. What started in 2023 to bring about this significant adjustment?
Well, great question. The reality is that so much of what we are seeing this year and in the last 3 years began before 2023. Even if you look at the year 2018, there was, I think, by the end of the year, given the trajectory that we were on from 2017, there was maybe a massive, maybe 22% reduction.
Yes. Yes, I'm seeing that here.
Right. And so, I mean, we've seen the JCF employ a range of tools in its toolkit. But the reality is that in recent years, we have embarked on the most aggressive period of transformation and modernization in the history of the organization. And that transformation, while it has been taking place over many years under several commissioners, the pace at which it has been moving has accelerated significantly in recent years. And we've seen changes to, in terms of investigations, in terms of intelligence gathering, operational changes, intervention changes, as well as the way we manage information. And so there has been a holistic shift that has been employed over time, and we are now bearing the fruits of those fundamental shifts in what we are seeing. But and there's also been legislative changes that have been critical, and operational changes that have been critical in containing violence and violence producers and giving the police the space to operate to reduce crime and more specifically to reduce murder. This year, the performance has been considerable, but I think that the seeds of what we are seeing, the shoots that, what we are seeing now, the seeds were planted some time ago.
You mentioned intelligence gathering, Dennis, which is a major part of what the police force they do. And we know for a very long time that it has been a challenge. I know you can't give us too much information, but what has changed as it relates to intelligence gathering?
There's a great deal that has changed. I think that the leadership of the National Intelligence Bureau has expanded its capacity. The current commissioner was a previous head of the NIB. And so over time, there has been an expansion in its capacity, not just in the Intelligence Bureau, but if we look at the holistic approach of the JCF, there are several critical areas of the JCF that have pursued the ISO 9001 certification. And what that does, you need to improve the quality of your systems in order to improve the quality of your outcomes. And if, for instance, you asked about intelligence. From an intelligence gathering perspective, improvements in technology, improvements in the number of assets that we have, improvements in the methodologies that are employed have begun to give us more accuracy, pinpoint accuracy, that we have the capacity to identify within a short period of time that a crime has been committed and to identify a possible perpetrator. You're reducing that time lag between the committing of a crime and the identification of a suspect. And so, of course, that puts the police in a position now you have to improve your operational response, because now if you are hitting with pinpoint accuracy and the quality of your hits is improving, then the intelligence packages that are being produced for the operational work needs to be raised in order to meet the quality of that intelligence gathering. And the investigative work to put together cases needs to improve, and the interventions into the communities needs to improve, and the work of information and communications needs to improve. And so all of these things are working in lockstep with each other in order to produce the numbers that you're seeing.
I know, Dennis, not to take anything away from the constabulary force and what it has accomplished, but is that really the crux of the matter, the secret sauce, so to speak, that it's just a matter of capacity building and improvements through infrastructure and resources? That is what it came down to?
As I said, there are many things, and the challenge is when you're transforming an entity in an ecosystem that we are operating in, you need to be able to fix several things at the same time. And so I'm not going to oversimplify it to say that's just what it came, because you say that's just what it came down to as if like that's an easy thing for it to come down to. The truth is that at the same time, while transforming intelligence gathering, you are at the same time improving the number and capacity and quality of your investigators, at the same time significantly increasing operational capacity, building out OSTs in various divisions, building out quick response teams, providing them with the resources that they need, building out the intervention capacity of community safety and security in order to do the social intervention projects that people don't realize that the police do in becoming social workers in communities. These things take time. and a great deal of resources. And many people will say, boy, if you do this, you can't do that. And what we have seen is several of the things that need to be being fixed at the same time. You have being placed in the organizational restructuring. You see the creation of force development and logistics portfolio, where all of the transformations, that acts as a hub of all of the transformations. Dr. Kevin Blake, when he was deputy commissioner, was in charge of that. And so you see now a driving force behind the transformation that needs to take place. We've said very often that we need to bring the force to a particular critical number in order to do some of the things that we want to do. Over time, even during COVID, we were heavily recruiting persons, bright, young, vibrant individuals who are joining the police force, who are making a difference. And also, at the same time, it's not either or, but it's and. At the same time, we're improving the leadership capacity and promoting people within the force in order to lead the people that we're bringing in. And at the same time, we are using, whether it be states of public emergency or zones of special operations or community interventions, all of these programs have been moving at the same time. And again, you get to a point where you're gradually reducing the number of violent acts that take place, and the more violent acts you reduce is the more you reduce. We're seeing a greater number of investigators and doing better investigations. What does that do?
I wanted to hold that point, though, Dennis. We're up on the break, Dennis. Hold that point as it relates to the investigators. Let's pick it up after the break. We're speaking with Senior Communication Strategist at the JCF SSP, Dennis Brooks. We take the break. Nationwide at 5. We're inside the cover story, and we're speaking with Senior Communication Strategist at the Jamaica Constabulary Force, SSP, Dennis Brooks. And we're speaking about the murder stats, and it's impressive, listeners. We continuously, month over month, we are seeing the decline. And just before the break, Dennis, you're speaking about the investigators and the quality of investigation that you have. Let's pick up on that point.
Right. The point that I was trying to make is that we can't diminish the importance of improving investigative capacity, because the greatest deterrent to a crime is the threat of being caught and punished.
Yes.
And so when you are seeing a situation where, yes, a murder may be committed, but you tell me, haven't you noticed, wait, they found somebody already? They identified somebody already? That closing that gap between the person committing the violent act and the person being identified. So what we are seeing now is, for instance, we've been saying it for a few years, record numbers of violent offenders being put before the court. We have entire gangs being put before the court through the use of the legislation that is available to us. And so when you are now putting these gangs before the court, they are less capable of affecting the space in the ways that they want to. And what we will see is the continued targeting of criminal organizations and dismantling of them. And so when we say the number of active gangs has been halved, that is a great deal of work that starts with intelligence, but it also takes into consideration operations, and it takes into consideration investigations. And then when you take them out of the space, nature abhors a vacuum. You must do the intervention necessary. And so ACP Charmaine Shand and her team at CSS go into the communities and do the community work through the CSS mechanisms to fill the space so that that gang has no space to reclaim. So again, those are reasons why we are able to reduce, because we are taking the approach of targeting high-risk offenders. Because when you target the people who are contributing the most to the violence numbers, every violence producer has, if you were to use economics, and I'm no economist, but let us use economic principles and saying that Siobhan Campbell has a marginal propensity to commit violence. Now, every violence offender has a multiplier effect. So if I go and I arrest Siobhan Campbell, he might not be a major violent offender. When I arrest him and I take him out of the space and he's before the courts, I may be stopping the murder of one or two. But when I go into the space and I take out Sanjay, who's a bigger violent offender, I might be reducing 20 murders in the space that he's contributing to. And I'm saying it is more difficult to target the violent offender who is contributing to 20. But targeting high-risk targets is very important to the reduction that we are now seeing as well.
Dennis, I don't really want to make this a political debate, but operations and policy tend to be intertwined in these matters. And you did mention it earlier that the states of public emergency played a role. Others would argue that the reductions, the true reductions, were achieved in periods where the utilization of that state of public emergency actually waned. What role did it play then in terms of bringing about these numbers?
Well, I'll be very honest with you, Siobhan. Anytime an interview is done and the question is raised about states of public emergency comes, the answer to the question about states of public emergency becomes the headline for tomorrow's news because it's a politically salacious point.
Yes.
I am going to decline from going down that particular road because all of what we have discussed prior to this question will be negated by my answer to that question. What I will say is that it is merely one tool in a broader toolkit. And in using states of public emergency, there was never the elimination of any other tool in the toolkit of the JCF. As I have said prior to your asking of that question, there has been a range of transformations, a range of investigative, intelligence, operational, intervention, information, transformations that have taken place. Transformations in our people, in our quality, in the technology that we are using. That has nothing to do with that. All of which, as I said before, the seeds of which were planted long before. Yeah. There are transformations that have been coming from 3 commissioners ago that came to a head under the last 2 commissioners. We are seeing significant benefits now. It's not either or. It is and. And so the SOEs and zones of special operations and all of that have been used in collaboration with all of these things. And I do not attribute 1 or 2 of these things to the success. The only thing is that some tools that you utilize will take longer to bear fruit, but bear fruit they shall, and bear fruit they have. And that cannot be denied, that the use of the wide suite of products has produced the result.
Well said, Dennis.
I have to put this one to you because we've heard it in certain avenues where critics sometimes say the crime numbers can fluctuate due to underreporting or changes in classification. How confident is the JCF in the integrity and the accuracy of these statistics?
We are supremely confident in the integrity and the accuracy of our statistics. Now, changes I've been a student of criminology since 1999. And as a teacher of criminology, I have always told my students, I said, look, when we are looking at the factors that influence the recording and the reporting of crime, those have not changed fundamentally. Every year, I listened to your news, and you were poring over, as you said, data from as far back as 2001. Every year that you can speak of, that you spoke of in your report, there were reclassifications, but those are all accounted for in diligent statistical management. So, for instance, if you were shot and injured, or if man A was shot and injured and is later succumbs, it is added to the statistics, and there are ways that those numbers are accounted for. And the statisticians at the JCF are excellent in what they do, and they have been doing these things for many years. I have no question in the quality of the statistical research that has been done. And if you go on the peer-reviewed studies, we have at the JCF produced statistical reporting for academia to utilize to do their own objective analysis.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I just want to put a quick one in, Dennis. I have to bring this one up. Your Wanted Wednesdays. We have recognized, and many individuals have said, that it has been so funny, and we're hearing that you're getting good results from it. Talk to me about the creation behind it, and also the results that you've been receiving. Are individuals really sharing information with you?
Sure. So people see the product, but they don't see necessarily the social science behind it. And so the Wanted Wednesdays, it emerged maybe, Lord, it might be 3 years ago, maybe more, I can't remember, but it's a few years ago. And it emerged out of research that I was doing into how do we dismantle the informer for dead culture. And of course, I mean, the short version of the story is there's a great deal of emotional response behind the informer for dead culture. Fear, anxiety, anguish, negativity, disbelief, distrust, etc. How do you counter those things? You counter it, the fear, with humor. You counter the distrust with something else, etc., etc. We designed a whole strategy to go after this notion of informer for dead, this narrative of we don't talk. How do you get people? How do you break that down? How do you build trust? And so there are everything that you see in these kinds of campaigns are purely strategic and based on criminological science. And so we believe that if we target it in a particular way, it will have success. Now, we partner because at the JCF, strategic partnerships are key. That's one of the strategic areas of focus of the organization, building strategic partnerships. We are of the view that when we look at the Crime Stop numbers that they provide to us perfectly mirror, there are direct correlations between what we are seeing in the Crime Stop numbers and what we are seeing in what we are doing with Wanted Wednesday.
And just finally, Dennis, we have about a minute. What is the mood like within the JCF among the personnel looking at these numbers and seeing that their work is actually paying off?
Excellent question. Thank you for asking that, because at the end of last year, you might remember the Commissioner of Police did almost like a year in review and did an island-wide look in the various areas and the various divisions. At that time, we were looking at an 18% reduction. And even just his acknowledgement of the reduction. And what he did was he did an island-wide tour. Then he went to various divisions and areas of the force, thanking them for the research, the work that they put in, just to tell them thanks. He'll leave him office and go tell them thank you for the work. That had its own multiplier effect, because everybody now is saying we want to go sub 1,000 next year. Everybody is chanting this thing of sub 1,000. It has become a mantra within the organization, sub 1,000, just because of what we wanted to do sub 1,000 last year. And it's almost like an athlete going for a personal best and not achieving it and saying next year we are going to go after it again. And I believe that has been critical to the results that we are seeing now. The morale is high in the organization among the rank and file. and among the officer corps. We are seeing that played out in the increasing affinity and propensity for leadership, and the rewarding of the work in promotion and giving people more responsibility to lead and manage and supervise. And in that regard, we will continue to see this the maintenance of these declines.
That's Senior Communications Strategist for the Jamaica Constabulary Force, Senior Superintendent Dennis Brooks. Thank you so much for joining us, Dennis, and all the best to you and your comrades within the JCF.
My what?
Your compatriots within the JCF, if that word is a little too troubling for others. Your compatriots within the JCF.
Thank you very much, sir.
Have a good afternoon.